Hello and welcome to the masterclass, 4 pillars for taking control of hormonal chaos during perimenopause without losing your mind. Now, I just love to quantify the peri in brackets and menopause sort of word there. I've done that because perimenopause is not a well-known term. Some people still have not heard of it. And also for many years, menopause has been used as an umbrella term, but it's not technically correct. There are actually 3 stages to menopause, and they are perimenopause, menopause itself, and post-menopause. Now, perimenopause is the lead up to menopause, and it lasts on average. There are different numbers thrown around out there, but on average, the menopause societies will tell you it's around 4 years. It can go on for over a decade. So it's also the period of time where most of the signs and symptoms occur, because it's where most change is happening. We'll go into a bit more about the whys and wherefores as we go through, but I just wanted to quantify that so you know what I'm talking about from the get-go. So let me just give you an overview. This is for you if you're over 40 and you're walking towards menopause, like you might be in perimenopause, suspect you're in perimenopause. There's sort of early and late stage perimenopause. You know, it's quite a complicated soup. And then there's menopause itself, which you might think like you're around. I will explain that to you in more detail a bit further on too. And even if you're in post-menopause, because this is about understanding your body and your hormones as a woman, your hormones in terms of the hormones that are affected by the menopause transition, which are a lot more than just estrogen and progesterone, which you may have heard of. It's also for you if you feel like you're losing mind, if you feel like you've put on weight that you can't shift, if you feel like you want to kill everybody in your house right now and you don't understand it because you've never felt like that before. You've always been calm and controlled, and now all of a sudden you just like to punch someone in the face. It's also for you if you feel like you should just carry on because you've been to the doctor and he says everything's normal, but you don't feel like it is. And I just want you to know that you know your own body best. And also at this time, it's not well understood, and even by doctors, that you might have standard blood tests and that may all come back normal, but it doesn't mean that they are. It doesn't mean that changes are going on, because I'm going to explain to you a bit more soon. But as much as doctors love to test, blood tests aren't very useful at this time, other than ruling out other things than perimenopause. They do not work for menopause. And so trust your instincts and know that there's something going on. And if you feel like that, I'm really glad you're here, because I have been studying this for close to a decade and I've also lived it. So I do have some little things to share with you that I hope you will take away and implement in your life and add value to your life. This isn't for you if you're over 40 and you feel fabulous and sexy and energetic and wonderful. And if you do, more power to you, but this will totally bore you because you will not be able to understand any of it, right? It's also not for you if you're not feeling like menozilla. Get that? Menozilla. It's actually a term that I've coined, and it's a take on bridezilla. So a lot of us feel like during this perimenopause, menopause transition, we feel like bridezilla is famous for being a little bit of a monster. So this isn't bridezilla, this is menozilla, where we're struggling under the weight of things like mood swings, anxiety, panic attacks, rage, recurrent urinary tract infections. Like there's a whole long list that we might be struggling with, and that might have come and hit us out of the blue, overwhelming us and confusing us, and we have no understanding of what's happening to us. If you are struggling under the weight of these, you are in the right place, because the strategies I'm going to give you will help to fast track you out of that place, which is a very cool thing. Now, I want to deliver as much value as I possibly can during this free 45-minute masterclass. It should last around 45 minutes. It depends how much I talk and how long I talk for, but I've done the timing and it is about 45 minutes, and there is sometimes questions at the end. So please write them down, note them down, and don't hesitate to ask me and put up your hand, because I'm really keen to cover off any questions for you. I want to be clear that nothing that we cover today is theory. It's science actually backs it, but so do I in terms of using myself as the guinea pig. This is all tried and tested. It works. It's proven both by me and by science. And it's exactly what I did to tame menozilla in my own life. Now, I know how busy we all are, right? Oh my gosh, can you believe it? There never seems to be enough hours in the day. So to thank you for staying here to the end, I would love to gift you, I think it's really cool, a little ebook checklist that I've created with 34, like there's tons of symptoms, but 34 of the main really pesky signs and symptoms and recognized signs and symptoms of perimenopause. Yeah, so I'll send that out to you if you stay to the end. If you don't receive it, please just do get in touch with me, because I'd love to gift it to you. Now, today I want to share with you how to overcome the hormonal tailspin that can ensue during the perimenopause transition. I do not want to be Debbie Downer, but there are times when it can feel like you are navigating treacherous waters, right? And how to release what can sometimes be just stressing symptoms and feel in control again. On the more advanced end of the scale, I'd also love to have helped you avoid taking drastic steps like isolating yourself or leaving, relationships, and making this journey far worse than it needs to be, because this is one, really, really important place where knowledge is power. Well, knowledge is power in terms of knowledge is potential power. I want to hand you some knowledge here. It's up to you whether you implement it, but it will become powerful if you do implement it. So does this sound like you? You're wondering how the heck you got here, like feeling like not yourself, probably in what you suspect is peri/menopause. You feel like you only just had a baby. You feel like you're 20. You feel like that was somewhere way off in the future and it's for old people. Well, it's not. Newsflash, it's not. Also, can you relate to feeling like really meh, like itchy and moody and irritable and hot and sweaty and nothing like yourself? And you're really over feeling like crap, and you might be hiding away from your friends or avoiding social situations. And you look at other women and they seem to have it all figured out. I know I did that. I used to think, why aren't these people struggling? But I think as human beings, we become very good performers, but also some women do fly by. They are not affected by any of the disruptive signs and symptoms that can occur during this transition. Lucky them, right? So I have to ask you, if not now, then when? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. So you might have been really struggling, working super hard to try and navigate this journey all on your own. But the thing is, you might be trying all the things and the rewards keep escaping you because you don't know enough, or you don't understand enough, or there's all this conflicting information out there. I mean, there is, this used to all be swept under the carpet. It is getting pulled out from under there at the moment, but there's a bit of a bombardment out there of information, and some of it is misinformation. So it's really, really important that you get quantified, evidence-backed, tried and tested information that's going to help you and not hinder you. Because, when there's some sort of movement happening, everybody wants to jump on that platform, don't they? But not everyone has all the answers, because it is a very complicated, I call it a complex, multi-layered biological process that is going on here. Okay. So, but if that is what's happening to you, it is not your fault. Please do not blame yourself. It's really important that you do not blame yourself. It is this complicated biological process that's happening that is lying at the root of all this. And the thing is, I said to you before that some women will just sail through this. They won't get what you're talking about. And I've seen people comment on Facebook saying, I can read all this stuff, but I don't get it. And they don't, and more power to them. That's a wonderful thing. It will be a wonderful place to be. And that will be 20% of women, right? But 60% of women will experience moderate symptoms, which does impact some area of their life, and 20% of women, and I was one of these, will experience severe symptoms. And this is a big deal, because it's just not about your individual life. It's about your relationships. It's about your career. It's about family. It's about everything. It's about every pillar of your life. So it's a really, really important thing, and not something to be taken lightly. For me, I have noticed that the problem is that a lot of women feel like they must tough this whole thing out. And that's without understanding it even. And please, if that's you, don't feel like that. You do not, and you should not actually, because there is a proven mind-body approach that can, and the trick is to learn to work with your body rather than against it. Because the thing is, when it's acting, when we feel like it's a bit of an alien and we don't understand it anymore, we can really resist it and fight against it. But the secret is to learn ways to work with it, because we love our beautiful bodies, right? And I know, and I'm going to share with you some ways to do that, to release the symptoms. And if weight gain is a bugbear for you, then to conquer that as well. And I know, I mean, I work with women every day who are struggling with this, okay? And I would say one of the top symptoms, if not the top one, is weight gain. Okay, it's a really common bugbear. It's not just to do with menopause, but it is to do with this complex biological process that I'm talking about. So I know if you follow some of these guidelines and you are able to release that and get a hold over them, you will feel calm and energetic and empowered again. And it goes back to the knowledge is potential power. The power comes in implementing it. You'd also fit your favorite jeans or that gorgeous dress again. And that is such a beautiful feeling, because there's nothing worse than looking in the mirror and not liking what you see. Okay. It's important to feel comfortable and confident in your skin. And you'd also free yourself from the rantings of your loud inner critic. If you are hearing this inner critic chattering away, you are not imagining it. My cousin calls it the voices in our heads, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it seems to get magnified at this time of life. But I'll explain that a little bit later on. For now, let me introduce myself. My name is Jenna Moore, and I'm an accredited integrative health and menopause coach. The reason that I became an integrative menopause health and wellness coach, health and, mouthful, right, is because I put on 20 kilograms and I felt like I'd lost my mind when I literally stumbled into Peri. Peri is my shortened version of the term perimenopause. And I do not use that word stumbled lightly, okay? I'll explain that a little bit later too. But that's why I've made it my life's work to help other women find menopause freedom, because I have had a journey myself, and I want to help diminish that for as many other women as I can. I'd like to be the coach that midlife women turn to who are confused and overwhelmed by what's occurring to them. Now, in my former life, I was a magazine health and beauty editor. So I've been working with women, educating women really, for around 30 years. So I like to say that I've switched my work from makeovers to lifeovers. But the thing is, I find that the lifeovers are pretty much like a makeover. In a makeover, we did hair, makeup, and dressing, right? And in your lifeover, we're going a bit deeper, going into mindset. I'm going to explain it all to you in a minute, but we're going on the inner you as well. So it's like a much deeper form, a much more rewarding and satisfying too, deeper form of makeover. But, look good, feel better. That's such a great, that's the name of the cancer organization that helps women going through treatment for cancer to look good and feel better. But for everyone, if you look good, you do feel better. But it's more look and feel good and feel unbeatable, right? And that's what a lifesaver is, I think. For my own story, I began putting on weight. I experienced anxiety, really, really bad depression, but I'm no stranger to depression, right? And if that's you as well, if you've experienced depression, any form of depression during your lifetime, like you might have experienced during PMS or postpartum or any sort of clinical depression, there's a very, very high chance that you'll relapse during perimenopause. Science has showed that. I also experienced dizzy spells, which are really, really common, and a lot of people don't know that. And certainly I was talking to my naturopath friend on the phone and sat up and had a dizzy spell and was talking to her about dizzy spells, and there were all these questions that she ran through. But I mean, menopause was not on our radar. We'd never heard of perimenopause. We thought that menopause was a long way away. So it doesn't matter if it's a naturopath, a health coach even. Menopause itself is actually a specialty because it is quite a complex, and there's a lot of layers to it. And I mean, I've been studying it for years and I still learn new things every day. So not every specialist, wellness specialist, is going to know about it. I also experienced crane jags, and I did not realize that perimenopause had hit me because I did not even know what it was, right? And I'm going to share with you a little bit later studies that show that I'm not alone. But I was even talking to a woman the other day who was experiencing some signs and symptoms. And I call them signs and symptoms because the two are interconnected, but they're not always the same. And I said to her, that sounds to me like perimenopause. And she said, excuse my ignorance, but what is perimenopause? So I thought that the whole lid had cracked open on this and that everyone's talking about it. But that's probably because I'm immersed in it every day. Clearly, from her question, this is not reaching everyone. So that is why I clarified the perimenopause and had the peri in brackets right at the start, so that even if you take nothing else from this masterclass today, you will know what perimenopause is. So I didn't even know what had hit me when I left my partner and my family. And I did do that. It was irrational, but I just felt like I couldn't cope with any of it. And I have found out that I'm not alone. So I don't want that to happen to anyone else. But what happened to me was when I sought help, there were no definitive solutions. And I loved my GP, right? I'd been with her for years, but she didn't mention hormones, perimenopause, menopause. I was prescribed antidepressants and sent to talk therapy, which I'm very grateful that those things were available to me because I could not stop crying. I did not want to do my work. I didn't want my life to be what my life was, but it wasn't the answer. And no one recognized that this was all being driven by the hormonal turbulence that I was experiencing. So that made me feel even worse. So I made a ton of mistakes because I started trying to figure it all out on my own. But I did find another way eventually. And what I discovered was that there were 4 key strategies that I'm going to share with you that I could use to feel sane again, right? Beat the inflammation that was almost crippling me, because as an aside here, one of the hallmarks of the menopause transition is a decline in estrogen, which is actually not as simple as it seems, but I'm going to explain that to you a little bit further on. But for the sake of brevity in this slide, estrogen is actually an anti-inflammatory. So as that's on the decline, one of the things that we can experience is chronic inflammation. So mine was really severe. I couldn't wash my hair. I couldn't do up my bra. I couldn't vacuum the floor. That's how bad it was. So it was pretty debilitating. I also learned that these 4 strategies could get me in better shape than I'd been in for decades, which was, I felt like a happy accident and a really great thing. So by taking control of all the things that were keeping me, using these 4 pillars, I could take control of all the things that were keeping me stuck in depression, hiding away and barely able to function, because that's how bad it was. I was hiding away. It was just a really, really wicked place to be. And so I completely changed my lifestyle. I used the 4 pillars that I'm going to go deeper into you with as foundations to do that. And I've given them the names awareness, the estrogen effect, mindset, and support. Okay. I spent time with a coach, my own coach, focusing on self-awareness and self-compassion, which is key. Really, really important here. But that's when I learned the value of coaching as well. And probably it helped me become a coach. It was experiencing that, because I learned the power of coaching as a fairly, in some ways, it's a modern day profession, but if you look at athletes, they've been using coaches for years and years, and we've all seen the positives of that, right? But now coaching is more mainstream. So we have life coaches, we have business coaches, we have wellness coaches, and we have menopause coaches. Clearly, a menopause coach specializes in menopause, but you need to be a wellness coach too, because it is a woman's health issue. It's not a disease, it is a normal natural life stage, but it is a woman's health issue because it produces such change. So you need to understand that wellness side, but it's not just about nutrition. It is a multifaceted thing. So yes, we have your usual suspects in there like nutrition and movement, but we also have some psychology in there and spirituality, what we call in health coaching primary needs, which are spiritual and community and family and love and all that sort of thing. And so that's why self-compassion is hugely important at this time, because a lot of women can beat themselves up and blame themselves because of what's happening to them, the changes that they see in themselves. But it's not your fault, right? It's a lot of this is driven by your hormones. So it's really important that you understand them to take the pressure off you. And the other thing was I learned to set boundaries around stress, because make this simple. The stress hormone cortisol becomes more dominant during the menopause transition, which means it's very, very important that we learn ways to mitigate the stress in our lives. We'll go into that a little bit more in a minute, but that's it in simple terms. So at first on this journey, you know, as I said to you before, I'd already made a ton of mistakes. I made so many mistakes along the way to where I am now, to where I'm sitting right now. And I certainly wasn't sure if I was doing the right things. But I don't know if you've picked up, but I was absolutely desperate. There were no solutions out there. I could find no help. So I needed to find it myself. So in the end, I did a ton of research, and I spent thousands of dollars, and that's when I signed up to train as a health coach. And then I did some functional medicine training and women's hormones. And then, you know, by default, I've also become a menopause coach. So I immersed myself in my studies. And as a magical byproduct of that, the weight dropped off and I became much happier with my weight. And I coined the term menozola. I really should trademark it. And I learned how to center packing, and that is the key. Taming menozola, right? So the results were that I dropped those 20 kilograms. I fit my beloved jeans again. I learned to smile and laugh again. And I pivoted careers without looking back, which I'm really proud of, because I think we teach what we need to know, right? That's what my self-love coach taught me. We teach what we need to know. And because I have experienced this myself, I like to think I'm a bit of a master teacher, because my secret superpower is that I have an understanding of what you will be experiencing. I didn't tell you my entire story to talk about me. I can think of far more interesting subjects, but I found it was really important to share it with you so that you know that I get it, that I know where you are, and that I completely understand. And I get really, really super angry because I feel like women are woefully uneducated about what to expect during any stage of perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause, right? They're all interconnected and they all come with their own nuances. I think perimenopause is the most, one we need the most education on. Postmenopause comes with its own need for extra loving care, but certainly that I think because we're so often ignorant of it, it really needs drilling down on and learning. For that reason, and because of my own tumultuous journey, I've developed a symptom system that I'm going to share with you today that helps you reclaim your mojo, which is why I called it midlife mojo, lose weight and release symptoms, which I think is a superpower. And I call it your passport back to your sexy, strong, sensational self, right? So I'm going to go deeper into those tried and tested pillars with you, because they will fast track you back to feeling bulletproof again. And that has to be a wonderful thing, right? So as an overview, let's look at them. 4 pillars to taking control that I've devised. I created this acronym, which I wish could be said as a word, but there's no way that it can. It could be ATMC. I think it's easier to say ATMC. So just remember ATMC, awareness, the estrogen effect, mastering your mindset and connection. Okay. So awareness is all about arming yourself with knowledge and understanding of where you are at. The estrogen effect is the little known hormonal impact that needs to be understood. It is all about hormones, obviously, and a lot more than the estrogen effect, but estrogen plays a major, major role here. Mastering your mindset, so learning how to build a level of calm and not feeling out of control and confused. And number 4, connections, surrounding yourself. I cannot emphasize enough the power of this. Surrounding yourself with like-minded women and having a trusted guide and experienced mentor like me by your side. These things here will perhaps shorten the time that you are struggling with this, because this is a perimenopause itself. Obviously, postmenopause isn't temporary because that's where you are the rest of your life. But perimenopause is a temporary time. And the more you know and the better strategies you have in place, the shorter the time frame can be, because you do not hear a lot of the symptoms that we in the West struggle with in cultures that live traditionally, like Asia and India and places like that. And I emphasize where they are living traditionally, because if they are taking on the Western lifestyle, then those symptoms happen to occur with them as well. So perhaps a lot of it we are doing to ourselves. So I found that those are the 4 pillars that will help you lose weight if there's your number one bugbear, as it is for about 90% of the women that I speak with and work with, and avoid a potential menopausal meltdown, which is, number 2 on the list of challenges. Because I don't want what happened to me to happen to you. I absolutely believe that your ability to function well in the world should be respected, okay? I didn't feel like mine was. Now, in hindsight, when I look back on it, the fact that none of these supposed health gods were finding actually what was wrong. And trust me, I was in and out of hospital for 2 years. It's not good. We deserve better than that, right? And I hear from women every day who might go to their GP and mention the term perimenopause or bring up symptoms, and they're poo-pooed, they're laughed out of the office, or they're, almost patted on the hand and giving a prescription for antidepressants. And I know in my own experience, I was in emergency at one stage and the doctor prescribed me, as it turned out, I did have a very serious illness going on, but I believe was driven up by the stress of perimenopause. But anyway, he prescribed me a modern day Valium. I don't know what they called it. They called diazepam or something like that. And he said, and I kid you not, these aren't the exact words, but I remember the phrasing. It was something to the effect of, oh, and I've given you these because women tend to overreact to a certain way. Yes, he actually said that. But the thing is, I'm not even that shocked anymore because I hear this all the time. And it's not cool. It is not cool. And I think that's why in a lot of ways that women are taking their power back. And people like me have put the hours in and are, raising our voices and helping other women to try and give them the knowledge that is going to lessen the disruption to their lives. So these are the 4 pillars that I know will help you move through menopause, perimenopause well. So let's take a closer look at them, okay? So pillar 1 is awareness. So awareness is knowing that menopause itself is only a moment in time. So you'll hear menopause here, menopause there, menopause there, right? But it's not, as I explained to you right from the start, it's not just menopause. There are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Perimenopause, as I've already said to you, lasts an average of 4 to 10 years. It is where most of the signs and symptoms occur because it is where most of the disruption is happening. Menopause itself is just a moment in time, and that is the last day of your last period, but you will only know that 12 months after it's occurred, by which time you are in postmenopause for the rest of your life. There are no 100% accurate definitive tests for perimenopause. Blood tests are unreliable, and the menopause societies are endeavouring to educate doctors about that. They are too unreliable because hormones are just way too reactive, erratic at this time of life. Okay, so you need to use, at this stage, you need to use signs and symptoms to track, and then you need to track your timing for that 12 months after menopause transition. If you get bleeding after 12 months, it's time to see your doctor to rule out anything else. So going back to, I didn't know what perimenopause was, and I told you the story, I think, of the woman who said, excuse my ignorance, but what is perimenopause? There was a study done by a menopause supplement company in the United States called The State of Menopause, and it found that 45% of women didn't know what perimenopause was, which is why I said right from the start, I explained to you right from the start what perimenopause is, because we need to know that, right? But the other really, really high percentage of women that was found to the question, that's it. Sorry, I just mucked up that entire sentence, but basically 73% of women are choosing to tough it out. That study found as well, and that's too high. And if that's you please, you do not have to tough it out. There is a whole lot of information out there, though, you know, on Google, obviously, but there's also a whole lot of misinformation. So do whatever the heck you can to make sure that it's underlined with evidence and science. And I mean, I can help you certainly, but not everyone is for everyone, right? So if you don't like my style or whatever, please feel free to go and get it elsewhere, but just please make sure that it is information, solid information, and not misinformation. Because, you know, I was that woman that didn't know what perimenopause was until I learned that it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be that way. And you do not have to tough it out. And I have learned the lessons and done the research and the training so that you don't have to. So pillar 2 is the estrogen effect, right? So the estrogen effects of perimenopause, menopause change the game, and things don't work the same way. Like what worked for you in your 20s and 30s isn't going to work for you in your 40s and 50s. Now, what's important here is that estrogen is also an umbrella term. Estrogen actually refers to a group of estrogens. We have 3 estrogens, right? E1, E2, E3, that we want to talk about here. E1 estriol is really only present when we are pregnant. Estradiol is the estrogen we're talking about here. It's sometimes called the aggressive estrogen, but it's the most predominant estrogen in our bodies through our reproductive years. It's an incredible estrogen. We have estrogen receptors all over our bodies. It's what I call our juice, so it's responsible for our lubrication. It's like why it declines, we might get joint pain or muscle pain or fascia pain, which is that tissue in between the muscles and the bones. It lubricates our brains, actually, by the way, our brains are 90% water. So if you've got brain fog, or you're, you know, you're not thinking as clearly as you once did, perhaps just drink more water and see if that helps. That's just an offside tip. Okay. It's also responsible for the collagen and elastin, so making our skin look plump and youthful. So, and estrone takes over once we're into postmenopause, and that's a weaker estrogen. But it's not like we go through menopause and we have no estrogen anymore. We still do, but it's not estradiol as much, and our ovarian production shuts down to almost nothing, and our adrenals and actual fat takes over. Like our fat can be metabolically active. That's a whole other equation, and it's part of what I teach in the program, but certainly it's one of the reasons why your fat will move from your hips and thighs to your belly and abdomen, but that's also to do with cortisol. There's all the other estrogens, hormones at play here. It's not just estrogen, it's also progesterone, which is really necessary for holding our pregnancies. So that's why it's most predominant through our reproductive years as well. And that declines around 35. It's often called nature's Valium, which is why we can't handle stress as well, why we might fly off the handle more. Estrogen use is also contributes to our calming, but progesterone is nature's Valium. There's also thyroid, stress hormone, cortisol, and insulin are all at play here. And these are all contributing to weight gain as well, if that is your number one bugbear, like it is for 90% of women. So one tip here is hormone balance is an absolute requirement of weight loss. I've been hearing the term hormone balance being poo-pooed a bit online lately, but it is the absolute best description to use here, because I know that you understand it. If I say to you homeostasis, which refers to body balance, you're like, what? Hormone balance you get, right? Like there are all these hormones in play and they need to all play in symphony like an orchestra. That's a simple, easy to understand way to explain it. Right. And we can't spend hours and hours on this. This is a webinar and a masterclass on, as I said, I'm very conscious of your time and how busy you are. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So with the estrogen effect, also food, movement, and environment all make a huge difference. Now, food, what we're talking about here, actually, the main thing we're talking about here are endocrine disruptors and xenoestrogens. Now, these are very predominant in life in the 21st century. You'll find them in plastics, you'll find them in food, you'll find them in additives, colorants, pesticides, etc., etc. So that's why it's really important. I'm just going to do this briefly because, yes, nutrition and exercise and things like that are really, the usual suspects are really, really key to this whole program and putting steps into place, because food and nutrition, going back to basics, it's about going back to basics and having things, food as raw and natural state as possible, not raw as in not cooked, but in as tempered with us by science and man as possible. Really, really plant heavy and heavy in phytochemicals is really important. Phyto means plant. And your environment, like you will find xenoestrogens really predominant in your personal care products, your house cleaners, etc. So if you can choose as many natural versions of those as possible, you'll be ahead of the game. And also movement's really important here, for like it will help balance your insulin, blood sugar, and for so many reasons, for your mental health, Yeah, so many reasons movement is important, but I'm kind of thinking ahead here and the best way to explain it to you. But because I know weight gain is a number one issue for a lot of you, I want to say very clearly here that under-eating and over-exercising is counterproductive. It will cause you to hold on to weight. And exercise isn't so much about weight gain, weight loss, sorry. It's about moving those nutrients around your body. It's about your mental health. It's about keeping your bone and muscle mass as strong as possible, because we lose them at a very rapid rate, especially in those first few years post-menopause. And yeah, it's your mental health and feeling good. But weight management is 80% of what you do in the kitchen. So it's about purifying all that. And also, the liver is our biggest detoxifying organ. It's a really, really hard working organ. I love the liver, right? But one of its jobs is to get rid of excess estrogens. So those xenoestrogens are mimicking your body's natural estrogens. And the more of it that we have in our body, the more our symptoms will be magnified, right? But if we have lots of them and our liver is loaded down with processed foods, caffeine and alcohol, it can't do its job properly. So those xenoestrogens or estrogens will be recycled, which will make our symptoms worse. But that's a really complicated subject, and one that I love to share, but we don't have the time here. So hopefully I've said that as simplistically as possible, but got the message through. So I had to learn how my unique body works, and so with you, because we are all bio individually different. Like I'm a peach, Mary's a lemon, and you might be an apple. Okay, so what I thrive on is a peach. Mary the lemon isn't going to get as much benefit from, and you, the apple, might thrive on something else. So we're all same, but different. So we've got to learn what works for us as well. Pillar number 3 is mastering your mindset. Okay, and this is really big because the brain and the mind play a huge role during this menopause transition, and it's not so well known. Okay, when I was talking to you before about your inner critic, I want to revisit that, because your inner mean girl sort of tends to start working on speakerphone at this time, and she can become really especially bad. So she overthinks, she over worries, she second guesses, and she gets a racy mind. But the other part of that equation, and one of the signs and symptoms, is suicide ideation. So she loves that. She jumps onto suicide ideation, which are thoughts of suicide. And what really concerns me, and what I'd like to open the conversation on, is the suicide statistics for women 45 to 54 really high. It's the highest rate for women, actually. So that is the age group that this whole transition is going, encompasses. So it's really important to be aware of that. So many women feel like they're going mad, and this is why. This is a big reason why. We have estrogen receptors, a whole lot of them in our brains. And actually, Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's a professor in the United States, does a lot of research on the link between the brain and menopause. And she says that a lot of the symptoms, like perhaps the brain fog and forgetting things, even hot flashes, are actually to do with the brain rather than the ovarian decline of estrogen, which is really interesting. And I'm sure more and more research is going to come out on that, the more work that she does. But mindset and positive psychology are really important at this time, I feel, because you can retrain your brain. And for too many women, like when I'm talking about those suicide statistics, for too many women, mental health is an issue during menopause. So that's why we have a big mindset focus. And what I've said to you, self-care and self-compassion are so important. So we have focus on that. Meditation, pausing, and EFT. Meditation you will know about, or perhaps been a participant in. Pausing, it's just pausing. Like take a moment to pause, right? With me, just close your eyes and take a breath. How do you feel? How often do we do that? We don't. We tend to run. EFT is also known as tapping or emotional freedom technique. And it's actually a simple technique, but it's hugely powerful. And it involves tapping on acupressure points on your hands, on your head, your face, and your collarbone, and just reciting certain sentences. So we share with that because that's really powerful. And breath work, like yoga has been using breath work for years, and breath work itself is a really big thing these days. I have some really short, sharp techniques you can use if you're having a panic attack, anxiety, whether you're out and about, or anxiety when you're going to sleep. Perhaps you're freaking out because you're in a about to go into a board meeting and about to have a hot flush, and that freaks you out. You can go to the ladies and do this. There are a couple of them, and they will bring your parasympathetic nervous system or your more relaxed system to the fore. There's the 4-7-8 technique, which involves breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and breathing out for 8, and rinsing and repeating a few times. And then there's 2 short, sharp shifts and breath. Let's just do a couple of those. So breathe in for 2 short, sharp breaths and breathe out with me. How do you feel? Those are magic. Like you can do them anywhere. You can do them sitting in your car if you feel road rage coming on. Perhaps if the kids are screaming in the back of the car, you can do that. They are wonderful. They're almost like magic wands, I think. And then there's positive psychology, okay? And about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, I wrote a book with my beautiful naturopath friend, Lani Lopez, about breast cancer. And in there, we had a chapter on positive psychology. Now, the father of positive psychology is Martin Seligman in the United States, and it wasn't very well known then. But I noticed now it's very well known, and I love that because it's a wonderful way of working with your mind and self-talk and things. So I've trained in that, and I work with that as well. And these things are game changers. If you are having a challenging menopause, you really need them. They will change your life, not just through menopause, but they will be your superpower through the rest of your life. And pillar 4 is connection. And science proves this. We need other people for our best health. So surrounding yourself with like-minded women and a trusted guide, a mental wayside like me, like I would be your cheerleader and your accountability partner. And, you know, your support system, contact me anytime type thing, because I know that there is a much, much better way than feeling like you're in no woman's land. That's my take on no man's land. During what can be a really overwhelming and confusing time. In fact, one of my clients, Anna, she shared with me that she felt it was learning to understand her body and having a sounding board that helped her most of all, which I just love, right? And let me just jump here. No, it's a bit further on. So I'll show you that in a moment. But today I showed you just a brief overview of the fundamental factors that I have found that can help when menopause has taken over. And they're the ATMC, awareness, the estrogen effect, mastering your mindset, and connection. superpowers. They will be your superpowers. So I have to ask you, just think about it for a moment. Like, what would it mean how would your life be different if you could drop 10 kg, like the woman you saw in the mirror, sleep through the night, or whatever your major bugbear is? How would it feel if you could conquer that? I can't tell you because I've done it. And I can't tell you how liberating it is. And I have to ask you, as someone who's been there and done the journey, what are you missing out on by not taking back control of Menozilla, like of shortening this transition period? Not like we're not going to be able to change the length any of, so to speak, but the severity of what you might experience. Because in my experience, menopause does not need to flatten you. It can be something that strengthens you. It has been for me, eventually, I have to say that, eventually underlined. But you do need a framework, right? So I love this quote by Brené Brown. Midlife is when the universe places her hand upon your shoulder, pulls you close and whispers in your ear, I'm not screwing you around. And ain't that true, Miss Midlife? You are not screwing around. Thank you very much. You have been a wake-up call. But what I can tell you is, because I've been on this journey, as I keep saying, I sound a bit like a broken record, don't I? But you do come out more empowered, which is a wonderful thing. I really implore you not to be me. I did not know enough to understand that Peri what was turning me into someone I did not know, and I definitely did not like. I really did not like. And neither did my friends and family until it was too late. Like, basically annihilated a certain part and time of my life. So I don't want that to happen to anyone else. Like, perimenopause is a virtual crap show for a lot of women, and it's not being talked about. But I'm talking about it because I want to open the door. I want to show you that you can ease through this transition, that it is manageable and the challenges can be preventable, right? Oh, this is what I wanted to share with you. I asked Katerina if she would mind being a superstar in my masterclass, and she said reluctantly as an interview, okay. So she said every woman needing support with the hormone imbalances would truly benefit from doing this. It isn't just about doing the program, it's also about learning about hormones and how your body is impacted in healthy and unhealthy ways. Changes the way you think, is about a lifestyle change, and the support is personal and individual. Each person is made to feel empowered. And I love that. And I thank you, Katerina. I want everyone to feel empowered. I think I've made it quite clear that I feel like knowledge is power, or knowledge is potential power, but knowledge gives you the key to implement the power, right? So why would you listen to me? I think I've made it quite clear to you that, well, you do know that I've been there and come out the other side. And I think I've made it clear that it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It does take work and commitment. Anything in life that is worthwhile takes work and commitment, right? And this isn't negotiable. If you live long enough, you are going to experience menopause. How that experience is going to be for you does depend, well, obviously it depends on genetics and your biochemistry, but if you are a symptomatic person, how you manage it can make all the difference to your experience, right? So as you know, I've transformed my own life, and it's become my why to help other women navigate this transformation. So I would love to invite you to book a free call with me. There's absolutely no obligation at all. If you want to take your life back, you cannot miss this. We'll look into where you're at and chart a course that takes a holistic mind-body approach to move more positively through the challenges of peri. But because it's personal time with me, the opportunity is limited to the first 10 people because that's quite a chunk of time out of my life. So I'll pop a link in the chat. I think I put one there, but I'll double check that before we close off. And that will take you to a scheduling form to book a call with me. If you need any technical help with that, you can email us here. If you've got a pen and paper, just write this down, hello@youology.co.nz. And this is for you. Like, you might not tick all these boxes, but you might tick some of them. If you're an action taker, if you're over this whole meno thing, if you want to feel sane again, if you want to lose weight, if you want to get rid of perimenopause symptoms, if you want to feel joyful and confident, if you want to feel powerful, if you want your partner to look at you with that look again, or if you're single, you want to feel comfortable dieting again, because, you know, that can be a big thing as well. A minefield, being single at this time, midlife is a huge, it's hugely different when you were younger. So you have two options. You can take away some of the nuggets I've shared with you today and implement them on your own. And yeah, I really hope that they have added value and added to your knowledge base, and is something for you to bounce off. Or if you want to go further with me, I have created 12-week midlife mojo, midlife over. And I fully support you there with group calls, once a week, handouts, recipes, modules that will go into exactly how the liver works, exactly how this weight gain thing happens, all about estrogen, all about all the other hormones. There's 12 modules in there that go dive deep, and you will have that knowledge with you for the rest of your life, right? And I'll be there as your cheerleader and your champion and whatever else you might need. And I created that because I wish it's what I'd had. It would have made all the difference, and I wouldn't have struggled for as long as I did. So if either of those are you, I'd love again to invite you to the free call. So you know, if you want to regain your midlife mojo, I can tell you, you have the power. But like I've already said to you, a framework's really key. And that's why I've developed this Midlife Mojo transformation project. And if it is something you're interested in, just as a heads up, like I say, that call is free and no obligation. But if it is something you're interested in, I want to give you a gift, and I want to be fully transparent. I'm not inviting you to a call so I can sort of jump on you and sell you my program. So I'm going to tell you heads up, so you'll know if you're going to jump on a call with me just to map out a plan, or if you want to take part in this. So it's usually $1,997, right? But I'm giving it to the first 10 people for $1,497 for the entire 12 weeks. And that's like, I put massive energy into this to help you as much as I possibly can. So that's totally up to you though, of course. And I am doing that because, as you know, I love it, but I want to see you feeling confident, energetic, and vibrant in your skin again. So again, and I have put this in the chat, I think, and some information for Midlife Mojo in there as well. But there it is, the address there, www.youology.co.nz /book-chat. But you can always get hold of me at the website as well. Anyway, so thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you have enjoyed this masterclass, and as I say, taken away some nuggets. If you do book a call, I really look forward to speaking with you and spending some time with you, and I really hope you do. If you don't, if you just take away what I've shared with you today, I wish you all the best with that as well. So thank you once again for joining me, And I will end the call here and just ensure that I've put in those links, and please feel free to ask me any questions. Hi there. I'm just going to put those links in the chat for you. Yeah, they are there. So I can't see any questions there. So I will sign off and wish you all the best. As I say, I really hope and look forward to speaking with you soon.